Dean's here, says Mum, gently showing him into my room. I'll leave you two to chat, she says. Dean comes in awkwardly. All right, Ethan, he says. How's things? He immediately grimaces and mutters an apology. Sit down, I say. He sits on the edge of the bed looking at his feet. I wheel my chair round to face him. I haven't seen you in a while, I say. Sorry, just been busy, he says. Coursework, uni applications, he trails off. 5-a-side? I ask. He tries to look at me but can't. Yeah, he says. Top of the league now, he grimaces again. Bloody hell, mate, I don't know what to say, he says. Not a lot you can say, I tell him. There's silence for a few seconds. I brought you a few beers, he says, reaching into a small bag that he's brought. I'm not sure that's appropriate, I say quietly. Besides, I can't drink on the medication. Dean puts the beers back into his bag. Wasn't thinking, he says. A message comes through on my phone. Murderer, it says. I show it to Dean. 4th today, I tell him. Social media's even worse. I've tried changing profiles, even swapped my mobile number, but it doesn't take long before they start again. You should report it, says Dean. Why? I snap. It's true. I took a life. I am a murderer. As I'm sure the jury will confirm. Dean starts to say something, but I cut him off. I was distracted. On the wrong side of the road, speeding over the limit, I say, of course, I'm a fucking murderer. Dean shuffles uncomfortably on the edge of the bed. I think of him running around on the football pitch with Adam and the rest of them. I picture him in the pub, leant on the bar, chatting up some hot girl or dancing in some nightclub. No cares or worries. And tears well up in my eyes. Bitter tears. Jealous tears. I'm jealous of my friend with his whole life ahead of him. A-levels, university, some high-powered job. He sees my tears and awkwardly leans over and touches my shoulder. It's like he's read my mind. Come on, mate. You can still go to uni, do your A-levels. I tell him I can't. I can't write properly anymore, I say. And my memory's knackered. It could be physical or psychological. Too early to say, apparently. Besides, if I'm convicted, I won't be in a position to go to uni. Dean pulls his hand away. I see him glance at the burn mark on the bottom of my arm. Silence between us again. My dad blames himself, I say, for buying me the car, for not giving me a lift. Sometimes I hear him crying on a night. Dean says, I saw the for sale sign outside the house. I laugh bitterly. We can't exactly stay round here. Not after what happened. Dad's put in for a transfer at work, I say. Awkward silence again. Dean, I say. I need the toilet. Dean looks confused and then spots the commode in the corner of the room. Will you help me? Dean looks embarrassed and I'm embarrassed. Yeah. Okay, he says. I wheel myself over to the commode and lift the lid. You'll need to pull my trousers down, I say quietly, and help me onto the loo. Dean looks mortified, but he does it. And then he stands and looks away, and when I've finished on the loo, he helps me off and back into the chair. Anyway, mate, I better be going. I'll see you again soon. I nod and he heads for the door. Dean, I call as he's about to leave. He turns. Have you seen Stacey? He looks at me and then goes to say something, but then he stops himself. I've known him too long. He can't lie to me. I'm so sorry, mate, he says. She's seen someone else. He turns and leaves, and when I'm sure that he's left the house, I allow the tears to flow properly. New Year's Eve. I'm holding 3 pints and trying to push through the crowd without trying to spill anything. Sorry, mate, I shout over the noise of the crowded pub as I manage to elbow some pretty ripped guy in the stomach. He grunts and sticks his foot out. I trip slightly and lose some of the beer. I hear him laughing as I get back to the table. Where have you been? says Dean as I put the drinks on the table. It's even at the bar, I tell him. It took me 20 minutes just to get served. Well, it is New Year's Eve, says Adam, taking a large drink of his beer. He grimaces. What's this? He says. They've ran out of regular lager, I tell him. I had to get the stronger stuff. It cost me a fortune. I take a drink and I look around the pub. There's a couple of girls stood near the door. I recognise one of them. From college. Stacey Mason. She's 17, a year younger than me. She's dressed in some low-cut dress. Never really noticed her at college before, but she's actually proper fit. She's talking to her mate and suddenly she looks over. At first I think she's looking at someone behind me, but then she smiles. At me. Just briefly, and then she turns back to her mate. She whispers something to her friend and I can see them both laughing. Stacey looks over and I smile back, but then the group of guys stand in front of them, so I can't really see her anymore. Adam's downed his pint. It's shit in here, he says. Let's get a taxi into town. You coming? Dean nods. Yeah. What about you, Ethan? I shrug. Maybe. I'm just going for a piss. I get up and I move towards the toilet at the other side of the pub. It's totally rammed now and I managed to knock some woman's gin and tonic down the front of my shirt as I squeeze past. Mark Williams is attempting to zip up his trousers in the toilet. I was in his class at school. He's a builder now, I think. He's pretty hammered. Ethan, he says, as he grabs my hand to shake it, and I think about where his hand's been, and I make a mental note to scrub my hands after. All right, Mark, I say. Happy New Year. When it comes, he slurs. I leave him in the toilet, still trying to do up his zip, and as I'm leaving the toilet, I see Stacey heading towards me. She's squeezing through the crowd. She sees me and smiles. She's chewing gum. All right, Ethan, she shouts over the music. All right, Stacey, I say, trying to sound cool whilst I'm aware that I have gin and tonic stained down the front of my shirt. Suddenly, Mark stumbles out of the gents and he manages to knock into me. I lose my balance slightly and I fall into Stacey. You're falling for me? She laughs as I feel myself going red. Sorry, I mutter. She says something else, but I can't hear for the music that's pumping out of the speaker above my head. She puts her mouth to my ear, and I can smell the mixture of lager and mint. You want to get some air? She says. We sit on the wall outside the pub. I can still hear the music from inside and the laughter, but outside, it's just us. Stacey moves closer to me. I'm cold, she says. The alcohol's hit me now and I relax and I put my arm around her. That better? I say. Much better, she replies. She seems fairly drunk but not paralytic. Won't your mate wonder where you are? I ask. I doubt it. She's planning on getting off with a guy behind the bar. We chat for a while. College. She wants to go into accountancy and I want to do something related to sport. I've seen you playing footy at college. You're quite good. You've got nice legs too. Suddenly, Dean and Adam stumble out of the pub. They clock us and Adam makes some embarrassing comment. I take it you're not coming into town, he says to me. I tell him I'm going to stay here. Do you get a taxi? I ask Adam. You're joking. It's New Year's Eve, they're all booked up, so Dean rang his dad. A car pulls up outside and flashes its lights. There he is, says Dean. The window's wound down and the driver shouts over. Come on, Dean, get in. As Dean and Adam get in the car, I hear Dean's dad grumble. You're lucky I'd only had a couple of drinks before you rang, or there's no way I could have picked you up. The car screeches away down the country lane. Stacey takes the gum out of her mouth, wets her lips with her tongue and kisses me. She pulls away briefly. Happy New Year, she whispers. And then I'm kissing her. This New Year's Eve's turning out much better than I had planned. Suddenly, there's a sound from across the road and Stacey stops. What was that? She says. It's just a sheep or something, I say. There's a farm across the road. I forgot how in the middle of nowhere this pub is, she says, and pulls me in towards her, and we're kissing again. Hey, she says. I nearly forgot. She reaches inside of her bag and pulls out a spliff. Do you want some of this? I've never really done dope before, not that I'm going to tell Stacey that. I'm okay, I say. Come on, Ethan, she says, lighting the spliff. It's New Year's Eve, don't be boring. She takes a drag and offers it to me. You can feel everything so much better with this stuff, she says. Everything. I take a drag of the spliff and I don't feel anything at first, so I take another drag and I hand it back to Stacey. Feel good? She asks and I nod. And then I laugh. And I'm not sure what I'm laughing about, but I just can't stop. It's 2 o'clock in the morning when we finally leave the pub. I'm dimly aware that it's New Year's now. Made any resolutions? Asks Stacey, stumbling slightly as she's grabbing my arm. Her speech is pretty slurred and her eyes are bloodshot. Get my A-levels and get as far away from this place as I can. Uni. London maybe, or Manchester. Stacey lives near me, so I've ordered a taxi. Took me 3 attempts to get through. New Year, I suppose. Oh, probably cost a fortune too. We stand outside the pub for what feels like ages. The last of the revellers emerge from the pub and stagger down the lane. Must live nearby. Oh, I'm beginning to wish that I did too. It's freezing out here and Stacey's almost fallen asleep on my shoulder. I don't think this taxi's coming, she slurs. She's probably right. It's been over an hour since I rang them. Suddenly, Mark Williams comes out of the pub. He's totally pissed. Can hardly stand up. All right, Ethan, he says, lighting up a fag. I hear the door of the pub shut behind him and the lock's being turned. Ring the taxi firm. See how wrong they'll be, says Stacey, yawning. She means long. I take my phone out of my pocket. Oh, shit. No signal. I only had 1 bar in the pub. I forgot I was in the middle of nowhere. The signal's crap. I think about going back in the pub, but I remember it's locked. I try holding the phone up and moving it about, but it makes no difference. Sorry, babe, says Stacey. My battery's dead. Maybe we should just walk. She must be pissed. We're about 4 miles away from home. I ask Mark if he's got signal. No, mate, he replies. We wait another 10 minutes. Still no taxi. I look at my watch and I groan. Oh, I'm supposed to be at work in 5 hours. I curse myself for agreeing to work on New Year's Day, but it's double time. And I reckon I could manage a supermarket shelf stacking shift on a hangover. I look at Stacey, who's fallen asleep on me, and Mark, who's trying to light another cigarette. I put my hand in my jeans pocket and I feel the car keys. My car is parked around the corner on the side of the road. There's a few other cars been left. The plan had been to drive to the pub on New Year's Eve, leave the car outside the pub and pick it up after work on New Year's Day. Dad had reluctantly agreed to take me into work early on New Year's Day and pick me up at the end of my shift to collect my car. But the taxi isn't coming, and it's too far to walk home. Oh, it's cold now. Come on, I say. Get in the car, we can warm up a bit. Stacey wakes up. Ethan, you didn't tell me you brought your car, she says. You're a lifesaver, says Mark. We're just sitting in it. Warming up. I'm not driving, I say, aware that I must be well over the alcohol limit. We get in the car. Me in the driver's seat and Mark in the back. Stacey gets in the passenger seat. Put the heating on, Ethan, she says. I'm freezing. I turn the engine on and I put the heating on full blast. We sit for a few minutes with the engine running, warming up. Mark's snoring softly in the back seat. Stacey pulls me towards her and kisses me again. Ethan, my parents will go ballistic if I don't get home, she slurs into my ear. I don't say anything. Ethan, she's whispering in my ear. Couldn't you just... I know what she's going to say. I shouldn't really drive after all the lager I've drunk. I'll be really grateful if you get me home, she's whispering as she strokes my leg. Please, she says. For me. She still looks hot even at 2 o'clock in the morning. I'm starting to think that I feel okay. It must be over an hour since I've had my last drink. The alcohol must be wearing off. I don't feel drunk anymore. Besides, it's nearly 3 o'clock in the morning, in the middle of nowhere. It's not like there's going to be any other cars on the road. Sod it, I say. Put your belt on. I take the handbrake off and I indicate and pull off. I drive steadily down the country road, desperately hoping there aren't any police cars around. The noise of the engine has woken Mark up. He leans over the back seat and he taps me on the shoulder. "Nice car, Ethan," he says over the sound of the engine and the heater. "Present from my parents for my 18th birthday," I shout back. Goes a bit as well. The seatbelt light is flashing on the dashboard. "Put your belt on, Mark," I shout back. He half-heartedly attempts to grab the seatbelt but gets distracted by the box of CDs I've got in the back. "Put some music on," says Stacey, and immediately starts playing with the radio. "How do you switch it on?" she's saying. So I look back and I press the on button. She starts flicking through the radio stations. "Put this CD on, Ethan," Mark is saying, waving a disc over my shoulder. Stacey takes the CD. "No way," she says. "It's the kind of thing my dad listens to. Give me your phone, Ethan, let's see what tunes you've got." I take one hand off the steering wheel and try to retrieve the phone from my jeans pocket. I can't quite get it. "It's in my trousers," I tell Stacey. She immediately reaches down and reaches into my trouser pocket. "How tight are your jeans?" She's laughing, trying to get the phone out. "Steady," I shout, swerving slightly into the road. "What's the matter?" she says, as she traces a hand down the top of my leg. "You look kinda hot driving," she says. I feel myself going red and I put my foot on the accelerator. That'll impress her. She winds down the window and sticks her head out of the window and she's laughing and the wind blows her dark hair in her face. Mark reaches over and turns the volume of the radio up. "I love this song," he yells, and I see lights coming towards me. Another car. I slow down slightly. The car flashes as we go past. "What's their problem?" I shout above the radio, and I realise I haven't even got my headlights on. 20 minutes later, I've dropped Stacey and Mark off, and I pull up outside the house. It's nearly 3 o'clock in the morning. I turn the engine off with a sigh of relief. No police, no breathalyzer, no driving ban. I'll be fine now. That's the last time I drink and drive. What an idiot. The alarm goes off at 6:30 in the morning. I reach over and I turn it off. My head hurts and I'm struggling to focus. 3.5 hours sleep. I don't wake Dad as I was meant to. Instead, I leave a note on the kitchen table. Don't need a lift to work. Brought car home. Decided not to drink. Bit of a lie, but I don't want Dad worrying. Besides, I got home okay last night. I skipped breakfast. My stomach couldn't take it. And I get in the car. I quickly message Stacey. "See you tonight?" And I put my phone on the passenger seat and I switch the engine on. I'm driving down Castle Street, which apart from rows of parked cars is practically empty. It's still dark and it's starting to rain. January is such a crap month. The street lights softly illuminate the terraced houses on each side of the road. I notice that most of the curtains are still drawn. I look at the time and I realise I'm running a bit late. The store manager doesn't tolerate lateness. I put my foot on the accelerator and I see the speedometer quickly reach 45. There are hardly any other cars around, and if the lights aren't against me, I can still make it into work on time. I hear a message come through on my phone. I reach onto the passenger seat and I pick up the phone. It's Stacey. I press on the message to read it, but the phone's locked. I try to enter my code with one hand, but the phone slips out of the palm of my hand and falls into the footwell. Shit. Keeping one hand on the steering wheel, I reach down with the other hand. My fingertips touch the phone, but I need to stretch further to actually pick it up. I glance down momentarily. 2-3 seconds at the most, I give one final stretch and I grab the phone from the footwell and I place it on the passenger seat and I look up. I hear the car horn first. Loud. and then the lights from the other car coming straight at me. Instinctively, I put my foot on the brake, but the rain has made the road greasy, and I know that I'm not going to stop in time. In the split second before we collide, 1,000 thoughts go through my head. How did I manage to veer onto the wrong side of the road? What would Dad say if I damaged my new car? Why didn't I just leave the phone on the floor? I turn the wheel and the other car must do the same. But it's not enough. I hit the other car at 45 miles an hour. The other car is just doing over 30. That's a combined speed of 75 miles an hour. My car veers sideways on the slippery road and the steering wheel slips through my hand, sending me straight into the driver's door of the other car. There's a sickening crunch, and I see the door and the front wing of the other car crumple like it's made of cardboard. My car mounts the pavement and straight through a garden wall. As the car halts, I hit my head on the steering wheel and the airbag explodes. I look in the mirror, and I see the other car spin from the initial impact. The front bumper is hanging off and the metal from the front of the car has been compressed, pushed into the inside of the car, probably crushing the driver's legs. The driver's mouth is open as if they're screaming. I can't quite tell if they're male or female. The car continues spinning and finally ends up still in the road. For a second, there's silence. I reach for the door thinking I need to get out, help the other driver. Suddenly, there's another screech of tyres and a van emerges from around the corner. It attempts to brake, but it hits the other car, hard, in the rear, compressing the metal from the back of the car, pushing it forward to the front. The car driver lurches forward, trapped against the steering wheel and the compressed metal. The screaming stops, and the car's driver's face instantly freezes and drains of colour. Hunched over the steering wheel, immovable. The van driver gets out of his vehicle. He looks dazed, confused. He's talking into his phone. I hear a few words. Ambulance, not my fault, blood, he's not moving. I can't move my legs. And there's a smell coming from somewhere. I look down and the bottom of my arm is on fire. And I realise that the smell is burning flesh. Weirdly, I can't feel any pain. As I begin to lose consciousness, I hear screams and shouts, people running out of houses. Some woman in a dressing gown is holding the phone towards my car as if she's filming me. My arm's on fire, I'm trying to say. I can't move. The woman carries on filming. Dad's solicitor seems to have been here for hours. As he's talking to me, I'm struggling to take everything in. He quotes legal jargon and stuff I don't understand. Dad asks him to simplify some of what he tells us. Mum holds my hand throughout the meeting. It seems that I will have to go to court. No surprise. I was told that was almost a certainty when I was originally arrested. That my injuries might be taken into account, but essentially they, the Crown Prosecution Service, whoever they are, have to decide whether I'm tried for causing death by dangerous driving or causing death by careless driving. I'm struggling to take it all in. Is there a difference? Dad asked the solicitor. Apparently there is a difference, though I don't fully take it in. The alcohol, the speed, me reaching down for my phone, all have to be considered. I cut the solicitor off mid-sentence. How long will I go to prison for? I ask. Mum looks at Dad and he shuffles uncomfortably. The solicitor clears his throat. There would be a lot of things to be taken into account, he says. Potentially 3 to 5 years, but possibly up to 14 years. I feel Mum's grip on my hand tighten. Dad looks broken. I've never seen him look like that before. The solicitor continues. Any conviction would have to be disclosed on job applications, which may have an adverse effect on employment prospects. I can't even think about that. I can't even walk. What kind of job will I ever get? But the worst part is yet to come. The solicitor tells me there'll be a victim impact statement too. The wife of the man who died in the collision will make a statement in court about her husband. Robert Harrison, his name was. Husband and father of 2 young kids. That's the part I can't come to terms with. I took a life. Someone's husband. Someone's dad.